Good morning again. As you can see on the screen, we're going to be talking about how humans and machines are going to work together. I want you to know this captures the exact conversation happening in control rooms really across all of our industries. Over the next 45 minutes, an hour, if we include the questioning time, we're going to answer that question. We'll talk about how we're working together with some of our teams, and how the future still belongs to engineers who understand how to partner with intelligent systems. And so today isn't about technology replacing our expertise, it's about technology amplifying the expertise that we've all spent years developing. We're going to explore real examples from plants, just like the ones you guys are familiar with, where this partnership is already delivering measurable results. So it's 10:30. I'm going to go ahead and let's get started. Let me share my screen with you guys. Okay. So before we dive into AI in industrial settings, let's take a second to establish a baseline. If you look at the top of your screen, you'll see a polls icon. Go ahead and click on it. You'll see a single question. It just asks how often you currently use AI, either at work or in your personal life. This is not a test. There's no wrong answer. Whether you use AI every day or you've barely touched it, your perspective is valuable, and I'd like to know, just kind of curious. And chances are many of you are already using AI. I'm sure you guys know it, but even without realizing it, we use AI every day. The spam filter in your email, that's AI. Your GPS rerouting traffic, that's probably AI as well. Predictive text when you're texting, also AI. So we'll take a moment. Yeah, Amelia, I got you. I'm going to give you guys about a minute and a half to just have a look at that poll real quick. Again, at the top of the Teams interface, there's an icon that reads polls. If you click on that icon, it'll take you to a single question. That'll be interesting for us. Okay, interesting. Oh, okay. All right, so we're going to move on. Based on the results, it's pretty clear most of us are already using AI in our everyday life. If we're not applying it to our professional environments yet, the question becomes, why not? So thanks for jumping into the poll. These results that you're seeing on the screen, these are from Menlo Ventures. They tell us something pretty big. AI has officially crossed the mainstream threshold. 1 in 5 adults now use AI daily. According to that poll, I think it's probably a little heavier than that. And nearly 2/3 have used it recently. But here's the part you don't see in that data. So in many industries, AI adoption is actually quite ahead of the consumer curve, and that's because the value is really clear. The return on investment is very measurable, and the use cases solve real costly problems. Ones that engineers, we all face these things every day. So in process heavy industries, we're already seeing 40 to 60% of facilities either piloting or actively using the AI-based monitoring solutions. So at this point, the question really isn't if AI is going to be a part of our future, it's whether we're going to lead that shift or try to play catch up later on once everyone else is already kind of into it. And here's why it matters. Early adopters aren't just getting a technical advantage, but they're building an experience and insight that makes them absolutely essential in an AI augmented workplace. Now we get to the heart of the matter. So trust. You guys, I'm sure, are familiar with some of the AI interfaces we see online. In industrial settings, trust in AI isn't theoretical, it's practical, it's really necessary. When a system tells you to shut down a $1 million reactor or delay maintenance on a critical asset, trust becomes the dividing line between operational excellence and a catastrophic failure. Can be. And that trust doesn't come easily. It depends on your industry, the criticality of the task, your personal experience, and how transparent the system is. And of course, how accurate it's been in the past. In our experience implementing SoundGuard across really dozens of sites, trust isn't just about getting the right answer, it's about understanding why the system made the recommendation. And that's what engineers really need in order to take action. So let me be absolutely clear about this up front. Your knowledge, your experience, and your understanding of how a plant runs, that's really irreplaceable. No AI system can replicate the judgment that comes from years of troubleshooting process upsets, recognizing the quirks in equipment behavior, or knowing how your plant performs in different seasonal or even in load conditions. What we're talking about here isn't replacement. It's really augmentation of all this. Think of it like this. A wrench amplifies your grip strength. A calculator amplifies your ability to process numbers. And in the same way, AI amplifies our pattern recognition and monitoring capacity. The best AI implementations we've seen aren't the ones that try to automate away the human element. They're the ones where engineering teams retain full control, using AI to expand their awareness. And we're all going to stay in the driver's seat, and you guys remain the experts. So what AI gives you is the ability to see patterns, spot risks, and make smarter decisions faster, especially the ones that would be nearly impossible to catch manually. There's literally just too much data for a single human being to keep up with all of that. And AI is everywhere. Let's put AI let's put industrial AI into context. You're already surrounded by AI that works seamlessly in your background. Your email filters out spam without even asking. Your phone guesses the next word before you type it, which may or may not be helpful to you. Your car adapts engine performance in real time as you drive. These systems work because they learn from your normal patterns. They filter out noise and they highlight just the information that matters. Industrial AI, it operates on that same core principle, and it does it on a much bigger scale. I mean, we're talking about thousands and thousands of data sources. We call those tags, and they're being sampled multiple times throughout the hour and then multiples upon multiples throughout the day. Now, to be clear, SoundGuard doesn't try to predict failures like a crystal ball. What SoundGuard does, this particular form of AI algorithm, it establishes normality clusters, high confidence behavioral baselines for your plant's assets. So when the system detects something that's moving away from normal, when it starts crossing the boundary into unfamiliar territory or even drifting toward a system boundary, it flags it and sends it to us to evaluate. So instead of reacting after something fails, which is a lot of the way we've had to work for years, you're now seeing the earliest signs of deviation. You stay ahead of the curve, not because it told the future, but because it noticed something that wasn't behaving like the past. When we train our AI algorithms, we're training them on data. We like to have a thorough seasons of data, so 1 year if possible. But the truth is, a really good onboarding process can deliver results even with zero historian data after about 3 to 4 weeks of interaction with the process. And we're not here to optimize for a single target like fuel usage. We optimize across the entire system, doing one thing well, keeping uptime high and unplanned downtime low. That's our goal. So yes, AI is everywhere, but in the industrial world, the best systems don't try to replace engineers or dazzle with gimmicks. They stay in the background, quietly making your job more effective, more informed, and more resilient. And this is really the core of what makes AI plus human collaboration work. Engineers bring something AI can't replicate: years of hard-won experience, professional judgment, gut-level process intuition, and creative problem solving. You see the big picture. You connect the dots that AI can't even see. But even the best engineer can't monitor 10,000 plus process signals around the clock while also managing day-to-day operations, troubleshooting problems, and sitting through meetings. That's where AI excels, not by replacing you, but by covering the blind spots that no human could possibly ever track manually. It monitors continuously and comprehensively. It finds the subtle correlations between the variables spread out across time, systems, and assets, connections that even the sharpest mind couldn't possibly spot. That's the partnership. You lead, AI supports, and together you get insight and control at a level that wasn't even possible a few years ago. And we see these things changing on a daily, weekly basis, on a daily basis. And the tools available to us are just getting stronger and faster. Really, it's not a matter of if we will adjust and adapt to these new tools, but when. Let's solve the equation we started with. It's not human versus machine, but it's human plus machine equals better outcomes. And here's how that partnership actually works in practice. And then it'll sound similar to what we've said over and over, but the truth is support. AI takes over the repetitive manual tasks so you can focus on the high value thinking and leadership. Amplify. It extends your capabilities by tracking thousands of signals. I mean, there are thousands and thousands of signals in our process, P&IDs. Correlating those patterns across time and space that no human could ever monitor alone. Control. The system surfaces potential issues, but it's still your call. We're not trying to, in our industry, we're not trying to spam people with just hundreds and hundreds of alerts a day. We want filtered, refined, actionable insight that comes in only when necessary, so that it's not something that's just blotted out by the people in the control room. So the heart of this relationship, you make the decisions. AI augments what you already do best, but you stay in charge. When we combine human intuition with machine precision, we don't just get faster reactions, we get smarter outcomes. So this slide captures what most control rooms look like today. You're stuck in reaction mode. An alarm goes off, but your first thought is, did I even get the alert in time? When I was in college, I worked at a steel mill and I was surrounded by the control board, and we had alert lights there. So when something happened, I was in immediate emergency reaction mode, because not only was I losing product, but one of my teammates could be getting hurt by a cobble with that red hot steel spilling all over the floor. So the alarm goes off. My first thought is, did I even get the alert in time? Or worse, was it already too late to do anything about it? So then you're staring at a screen full of alerts and you're asking yourself, which ones actually matter? You're looking out the window. Is everybody okay? And sometimes, honestly, what if none of them are even right? And that's the reality of relying on traditional systems. You're constantly putting out fires instead of preventing them. But with an AI enhanced approach, everything changes, everything shifts. Now you're working proactively with a clear signal extraction from all that background noise, all that data. You start seeing the earliest signs of potential issues and can act before they even become critical. I mean, look, we don't usually go around our plant with a voltmeter and we measuring the amps from one motor to the next and see how the amps change. Some systems can do that, but there are just so many signals available for us. It's impossible for one human to stay on top of that. AI, that's where AI works best, in a huge field of data. So instead of reacting to whichever alarm is screaming loudest, you finally have insight to prioritize strategically. And that's the difference AI makes, moving you from overload to clarity. So let's be honest about what AI is great at and where it still needs us. AI is phenomenal at digging through massive amounts of data, spotting patterns we never catch, flagging anomalies, before we even know that there's a problem. It doesn't get tired. It doesn't take breaks, doesn't complain about the vacation schedule or about what it had for lunch. It's watching 24/7. And unlike us, when we get tired, the longer we stay on, the more our AI system works, the better it gets, because our AI system is constantly refining itself and dynamically updating over time. It's watching 24/7 and it can alert us early and often. But here's the reality. It still needs us. It needs human judgment, and then it needs context. It needs feedback. We're the ones who decide what matters. We validate the recommendations and we teach the systems as we go. So for instance, if you're using SamGuard, you have a dashboard and the alerts come in kind of like emails. And when alert comes in, you decide if it's a good alert, a bad alert, or a completely insignificant alert. And every time we interact with that interface, we are teaching the AI, and it gets better and better and better over time. It will never duplicate an insignificant alert twice. It doesn't want to. It's designed to be refined and focused on what we really need to see. And we're the ones who decide what matters. We're the ones accountable for the decisions. And the best outcomes happen when we stop seeing this as a competition, which it's not, AI versus humans, and we start seeing it for what it is, a partnership. Let AI handle the complexity of the data overload, and let us bring the wisdom, the experience, and the strategic thinking. That's the power combo. So how do we build that trust? In our experience, it comes down to three pillars: consistency, collaboration, and transparency. First, the system has to be consistent. Engineers need to know it'll behave reliably in different operating modes and environments. Secondly, it has to collaborate with your team, not replace them. It should learn from your expertise and adapt to your plant's needs. And thirdly, most importantly, it has to be transparent. People don't act on black box alerts. With SamGuard, when we flag an issue, we show exactly which signals triggered it. We refer to these as influencing parts of the system and how they line up with historical context and how confident the model is. Without transparency, you've got automation. With it, you've got a trusted partner. It's kind of what we're all looking for, I think. So in the spirit of transparency, let's talk about what most AI vendors won't, the real world challenges that can make or break an implementation. These aren't theoretical, they're the difference between success and disappointment. And addressing them up front is how we build trust. First, the data quality dilemma. AI is only as good as the data it receives. You've all heard this phrase over and over again: garbage in, garbage out. Kind of works the same. We form a partnership with our clients, and we work with them to make sure we have good, refined data that can be reasonably trained into the system. If the sensors are drifting or tags are mislabeled, or if your historian is full of gaps, the system could learn the wrong patterns. And that's why we spend a significant amount of time with our professional process engineers at the start of every project. And we partner with our clients. We don't just put the software in place and then run away, especially over the first year. We want to be very, very much involved so that everyone is successful. We want to make sure that we refine the data that's coming in. We don't want to give such a granular focus that it's an overload of referenced alerts. We want to have very few actionable, reasonable, and reliable alerts so that you don't get second alert fatigue. The problem usually isn't too little insight, it's too much noise. When everything is urgent, then nothing is. We've all ignored emails when they turn into spam. Teams fear missing something critical, so they hesitate to trust new alerts. And then it comes down to something pretty significant and basic. It's a cultural shift. AI adoption isn't about new tools, not just new tools, but it's also about a new kind of thinking. Teams have to move from reaction to mode to a more proactive, pattern-aware mindset, and that takes time, feedback, and alignment. So why do we talk about this now? Because customers who face these challenges openly and plan for them, these are the ones who get real, lasting results. When we combine good tools with honest expectations, that's when the transformation actually happens. And we've seen some amazing reactions for our clients. We've seen some very good cases. So here's a case that's a great example of SamGuard, for instance. catching something that wasn't even directly monitored. What happened here is that a condensate tank started behaving oddly. The level control was fluctuating and the valve was cycling fully open just to maintain set point. That was the symptom. But what SamGuard revealed through equipment connection analysis was something deeper, a hidden failure in a nearby, completely non-monitored steam trap. And even though we weren't monitoring that steam trap directly, the system identified abnormal fluctuations in the structured process or the connected process, enough to alert the maintenance team before the failure cascaded. And again, here's a place where the human element is absolutely necessary. We can monitor a lot of things, but we don't know everything. And the maintenance team, once they had the proper alert, then they knew where to go to take care of this. And that's the key takeaway here. With SamGuard, you don't need full instrumentation on every single component. When the system understands how your equipment is interconnected, you can catch issues in non-instrumented areas by watching for abnormal behavior elsewhere. In this case, that early insight protected the team from an unplanned downtime and helped avoid about 40,000 euros in production losses and significantly reduced energy waste just by acting early on what looked like a minor anomaly. It's a perfect example of how AI can help your team make smarter decisions, even when you don't have sensors on every single asset. In another case, an undetected water leak. This case shows how easily critical issues can go unnoticed, not because of negligence, but because of limited visibility. For 3 full months, this tank had a steady drop in water level that no one really caught. Why? Well, because the tank was located on top of a low access column. It wasn't easy to get to, and manual inspection was rare. But the leak was real, and it was wasting water, feeding the wrong levels into an ammonia evaporator, and creating a growing safety risk. And it kept going until we installed SamGuard. As soon as the system went live, it flagged the abnormal trend. That early signal prompted a quick inspection, and sure enough, the team found a leaking manual valve. 3 months of silent loss caught immediately. This is where AI makes a real difference. Even when you can't physically monitor something every day, SamGuard gives you eyes on. It continuously, reliably watches everything without bias. It doesn't wait for things to fail. It flags them when they start to drift. So you can act early and avoid bigger problems. In this case, that meant stopping the leak, reducing the risk, and restoring control, all without relying on access to the tank itself. This is one of the most powerful and underrated aspects of modern AI systems. They don't just analyze data, they learn from you. And every time your team interacts with SamGuard, whether they validate an alert, mark one as a false positive, or add context, it's not just a one-time action, it's a training moment. The system starts to understand your plant. It picks up on how your engineers think, and over time it learns things like, okay, when they mark an alert as valid and say it's part of a scheduled turnaround maintenance, don't raise it again in similar situations. Or this pattern always happens during a grade change. It's normal, don't bother the operator next time. And what we end up with is a smarter, quieter system that mirrors the logic of your best engineers. It surfaces fewer but more meaningful alerts, things your team actually wants to act on. At one facility, we saw this in action. After 6 months of use, SamGuard automatically suppressed all alerts during startup because the system had learned from hundreds of engineer decisions that those fluctuations were normal. The result, precision improved from 70% to over 90%. And that's the learning loop. And that's what makes this different from traditional monitoring tools. You're not just using AI, you're shaping it into a true digital assistant, and it gets smarter the more you use it. That's how we drive real, lasting improvements. And this is really the ultimate goal of everything we're doing, what we call production under control. It's a state where your plant runs with predictable reliability. Your team works proactively instead of reactively, and surprises are rare, not routine. That means you're no longer buried in alarm floods. Instead, you're getting meaningful alerts, ones that actually matter, with clear context delivered right to your mobile dashboard. Your mobile or your dashboard. And it goes deeper. SamGuard tells you what changed, why it matters, and what to do about it without forcing you to dig through 1,000 trends. And that's what we mean by contextual intelligence. And so let's be clear, you're not doing this alone. Our team of real process engineers, not bots, is there to support your digital journey and help bridge the cultural shift that's required when adopting AI at a plant level. One plant manager, he put it perfectly. He said, we used to have someone whose whole job was just triaging alarms, deciding which ones might matter. Now that SamGuard is filtering those out, that person is spending their time preventing problems instead of reacting to them. And the numbers tell the story. At that site, emergency maintenance dropped 67%. Unplanned downtime dropped nearly half, so 45%. But maybe the most powerful result, the team's job satisfaction improved because they were finally able to be doing value creation, not just firefighting. This isn't just better technology, it's better work. When AI handles the exhausting task of full plant monitoring, your team gets back to optimization, improvement, and strategic thinking. That's where real value lives. I want to lock in these three simple truths that we've seen hold up in every successful implementation of SamGuard and really in any industrial AI solution. First, enhancement, not replacement. AI shouldn't replace your people. You hear this over and over again, and it's the truth. It should make them more effective. The best results come when engineers are freed up from routine monitoring and can focus on high value work like optimization and problem solving. SamGuard isn't here to take control, it's here to evaluate human expertise. And secondly, transparency builds trust. If a system gives you a recommendation but can't show you why, it's not trust, it's a black box. In a plant environment where safety and money are on the line, you need to see some reasoning. Our platform doesn't just throw alerts at you. It shows its work, provides context, and lets you validate its logic with engineering common sense. And third, human-centered decision-making. AI gives recommendations, but humans make the decisions. Every time you act on an alert, you're applying your judgment to it. That's exactly how it should be. AI should support accountability, not replace it. This ensures your team remains at the center of the operations and not sidelined by automation. These three principles, enhancement, transparency, and human judgment, this is what keeps AI practical, trusted, and valuable in the real world. They're what helps SamGuard become a partner to your people, not a threat to them. The philosophy of human-centered AI isn't just a nice idea, it's literally how SamGuard was built. Our development team includes process engineers, reliability professionals, people who've lived this work. That's why this system doesn't just analyze data, it understands the difference between normal transitions and real problems. It knows that sometimes a spike isn't a crisis, it's just part of a product grade change. For example, most AI platforms would flag a temperature rise during startup as abnormal, but SamGuard knows better. It's plant tuned, so it can tell the difference between a red flag and business as usual. This is what makes our noise filtering so valuable. It separates true signals from background clutter. And when you get an alert, it's backed by real engineering validation, not just math, but every recommendation is tuned for your plant, not just some industry average. On top of that, you get mobile and desktop alerts with clear actions and ROI, not just something's wrong. And we even support shift handovers with simple reports your operators can use without needing a data science degree. The result, it supports high adoption and high satisfaction because SamGuard works the way your team works, not the way a programmer thinks you should work. Let me zoom out for a second and give you some context on the system behind everything we're talking about. SamGuard was founded back in 2011 in Israel, not as a Silicon Valley startup, but as a serious blend of academic AI research and deep industrial know-how. From day one, it was built by people who actually understood plant operations. In 2018, Samsung acquired the platform, and that was the turning point. You take a century-old company with expertise in instrumentation and process control, and you pair it with a world-class AI, and that's what makes SamGuard different. It's not bolted-on software. It fits naturally into the control and reliability environments that you already have. Today, SamGuard is trusted by over 50 sites around the world, from refineries and chemical plants to food processing and pharmaceuticals. And it's not just the software, it's the support. You're backed by real engineers across 5 key global regions who understand your operations. Bottom line, this is not an experiment. It's not a new tool hoping to prove itself. SamGuard is a mature, field-tested, and growing fast. When you deploy it, you're not just getting a product, you're getting a partner that understands what you're up against because we've lived it too. At its heart, SamGuard is about solving real-world problems. How do you keep full awareness of what's happening at a complex plant without drowning in noise or alarms? Again, most monitoring systems throw alerts when a number crosses a limit, but that's helpful, but until it's not. And because thresholds don't tell you whether something is actually wrong or what's happening behind that, they don't understand the patterns. They don't know your process. SamGuard's different. It continuously monitors your plant using our advanced AI algorithm, but again, it's not about replacing engineers. It's about helping them to see what matters the most. It spots these subtle correlations and the trends that humans are going to miss, and then it presents them in a context with clear, actionable insight. Think of it like a reliability expert who never sleeps, never misses a shift, doesn't flood your phone with useless alerts, and doesn't just say this valve is hot. It says this valve's heat rises correlated with a control loop fluctuation tied to a compressor surge we've seen before. And this is why SamGuard doesn't just reduce downtime, it makes your team better at preventing it. Because when AI is used to amplify good human judgment, not replace it, you get real measurable results. How does SamGuard actually protect your plant in the real world? It comes down to 4 integrated capabilities that work together to turn all the noise into clarity and data into action. First, real-time intelligent alerts. They don't just tell you something's out of range, they tell you what that means. Instead of temperature high, SamGuard might say the bearing temperature has been trending upward for 3 days. So we get specific, correlating with increased vibration. This pattern suggests lubrication breakdown. That's the difference between raw data and meaningful insight. Second, digital process mapping creates a live map of your entire process. You have a dashboard, and it's not just how the system works or how the system was designed to run, but how it actually runs. It shows you how the equipment interacts, how your systems behave under different conditions, and gives you visibility into things you'd otherwise miss. And third, anytime, anywhere control. This means you're never out of the loop. You can see what matters on your phone, on your tablet, or your dashboard, even if you're not on site. No clutter, no spam, just the critical alerts to summarize you need to stay in control. All the summaries you need to stay in control. And finally, expert-driven insights. This means you're not alone in this journey. Our engineers, our reliability experts work with your team to interpret findings, prioritize action, and maximize impact. These 4 pieces together make SamGuard more than software. It becomes a continuously learning monitoring solution that adapts to your plant, learns from your operations, and gets better and better over time. So philosophy and features lists are meaningless without measurable results. What really matters is impact. That's what we're kind of got judged by, and that's what people expect from us. And that's exactly what SamGuard delivers. Across our customer base, we've consistently seen over 30% reduction in unexpected downtime. And that's not hypothetical, that's real data from real plants. For example, one polymer facility prevented 3 unplanned shutdowns in a single quarter. Each of those would have cost over $1 million. We're also seeing more than 20% increase in equipment lifespan. When SamGuard detects degradation early, it gives the teams time to act, and you're not just avoiding failure, you're extending asset life. One refinery, for instance, extended catalyst life by about 18 months using our alerts. Then there's the energy savings, 15% or more in many cases. Why? Because when your process control improves, you stop wasting steam, you stop wasting air, and you stop wasting power. Most customers see a full return on their investment within 6 months, sometimes even faster. One prevented failure can easily cover the entire cost of the system, but here's the real win: mindset. SamGuard helps teams shift from firefighting to foresight, and there's less stress, more confidence, better decisions across the board. These aren't projections or models, they're actual plant level outcomes. Every prevented emergency shows up on the bottom line. So Our system works by connecting with your existing data. So you're going to have a data historian through your DCS, your SCADA, PLCs. When we go through our onboarding process, we'll connect with your team. We do the heavy lifting of all the work, and we add to the system. Once the onboarding is complete, we've had access to the data. Then we begin training the AI algorithm so that it understands how your specific process works. And this algorithm is trained for you very specifically. Now, once the data is flowing, we shift to the next step, context. This is where SamGuard starts to learn how your plant actually behaves, not just how it's designed on paper. Anyone can collect data, but without context, it's just noise. When we get those P&IDs, we ingest your P&IDs, process flow diagrams, equipment specs, but more importantly, we study real-world observations and the operations that you have, your startup routines, grade changes, and everyday variations. It's like teaching the system your plant's native language. And over 4 to 6 weeks, we operate in learning mode. Your team keeps running normally while the AI observes and builds a behavioral fingerprint unique to your site. It learns that certain temperature swings during startup aren't a concern. It knows pressure spikes during transitions are expected. It separates the meaningful anomalies from background noise. At one facility, the system learned that humidity changes, not equipment issues, were triggering alerts. That one contextual insight eliminated dozens of false flags and saved on time and aggravation. The beauty is that this model evolves over time. As your plant ages or improves, the system adapts. That's how you get a living baseline, not just a snapshot that drives accurate, high trust alerts. Now we get to the part that everyone cares about, results. After SamGuard learns your plant's behavior, it starts catching problems that even experienced eyes might miss. Again, this goes beyond setting a high or low alarm. We're talking about multi-variable pattern recognition across time. For example, it might detect a subtle combination of things: slightly elevated temperature, minor vibration change, a small bump in power draw, that all point to an early bearing wear. Individually, that would look normal, but together it's a pattern. These aren't just alerts, they're recommendations, actionable recommendations, specific. Instead of saying something's wrong, it might say heat exchanger fouling likely, clean within 2 weeks. You'll recover 6 to 8% efficiency. That's the kind of guidance that lets you act before things spiral. And it's not just fixing problems. SamGuard also recommends ways to optimize, adjusting startup sequences, changing operating parameters. These are things that you can surmise from the alerts that you receive, or shifting maintenance windows based on actual performance, not the calendar. What makes this work is trust. Every recommendation includes context, supporting data, and a confidence level. You're not flying blind, you can verify it with your own team's experience. And that's how data becomes decisions, by pairing AI's horsepower with human insight. It doesn't replace your expertise, it depends on it, and it extends it. This quote is from Scott Ziegler, CEO of SimAI, a company created through our collaboration with Titan Cement. It addresses a growing challenge. Plants have data. We've seen the data just stack up, but we struggle to make it actionable. SimAI was built specifically for the cement industry, where ambient conditions, raw material shifts, and kiln dynamics create massive variability. And what's powerful here is the partnership. SimAI combines Titan's deep process expertise with the AI capabilities of SamGuard. SimAI uses SamGuard as its core AI engine, tailored with cement-specific domain knowledge, things like kilns, raw mills, fans, and how ambient swings can disrupt output. Together, we turned data into insight and insight into prevention. It's a great example of what happens when you pair domain expertise, which they had, with industrial AI, not just another dashboard, but real operational wins with, again, actionable data. Okay, I know that was a lot to take in. We've covered a lot today, everything from human AI collaboration to real world impact on reliability and efficiency. But right now, I'd really like to hear from you. What are you up against? What challenges are showing up in your operations that we haven't covered yet? And what concerns do you have about actually implementing AI in your plant? Everyone has a question about how this works. And so there's no question that's off the table, whether it's technical, strategic, or even cultural. Maybe you're wondering how this fits with your existing systems or how to calculate ROI, or maybe you've seen other tech fizzle out and want to know how this is different. If you're already using AI tools, tell us what's working and what you'd like to improve if you could. If you're still on the fence, what's holding you back? I mean, this is where the real value happens. We're going to share openly here. This is a good place for us to talk about this. We help each other cut through the hype and get down to what actually works. Again, this is not an if thing. This is a when thing. This is going to happen. We're going to embrace these tools in order to stay competitive. So let's talk. Let's be honest about the hurdles and about what's possible. For me, the floor is open. If you guys can unmute yourselves if you want to talk. All right, I'm going to pick somebody at random. Victor, tell me what interesting thing you've seen from one of your clients with respect to, this is specifically respect to onboarding and accepting of the technology. And if you're unable to unmute yourself, let me know so I can work on that. Okay. If you can, type your questions into the chat and I'll answer them there. There we go. Got it. Try now, Victor. Okay. If you guys have questions, can you see the Q&A menu off to your right? Saeed, please go ahead. To the right, there is a Q&A section. At the top, you'll see QA section. Also see the chat is working. Yeah. Click over, there you go, perfect. Click into the Q&A section and ask your questions there. Perfect. So I got one question about onboarding that was emailed in. And the question was, does anyone new need to be hired or do extra resources need to be allocated for the onboarding process? And that's a great question. During the onboarding process, we really do the heavy lifting. We need some access to your IT guys so we can have access to the system. Of course, we'll do a background check on our people, but we do the heavy lifting. We evaluate the data. We do the conversion of the P&IDs into language that our AI can understand. We create a digital process copy so that we can train our AI. Let's see, I have another question here. How to decide the equipment sensors required for monitoring? Can we integrate other OEM sensors into SAMGuard? That's a great question. Any data that is received into the data historian can be trained into the system as long as the data is represented into the P&ID, and so we understand how the data is working. Sometimes even when they're not in the P&ID, but still part of the process, we can still use the data. But we are industry agnostic, meaning any industry and pretty much any process, as long as we have an understanding of what the process is, and we get that through our discussions with one of your process engineers and access to the tag data into the P&IDs. Okay, I think I have another question that's coming in right now. Do we use SamGuard Cloud, or can we use it on your server? I think is what you're asking. You can do it either way. We actually own our own servers, so we can operate in our cloud using ISO 27001, which is leading edge encryption services, or we can install directly into the servers of our clients, and we've done it both ways. A lot of our clients like it when the install is done to their systems, so they can still keep control of their systems and make sure that everything stays secure. And that's easy for us to do as well. Can SamGuard interface with other systems, asset management server, to see diagnostic information? Any data that is supplied from any of the other systems that makes it to the historian can, for the most part, be evaluated. I can't say that all of them are things that can be used, but for the most part, any data that we receive, we can evaluate. I've had some clients ask, so for instance, they have third-party sensors in their process system, and their third-party vendors are very, very protective of their systems. They don't want anybody getting into their systems, but their third-party sensors do provide data. So what's inside their sensors might be proprietary, they might protect it, and they don't want anyone to look at it, but they still have to provide a signal. And so we don't really want to get into their stuff, but what we would like is the signal. So when we get a signal from them, that can be part of what we use to make diagnostics. It's how SamGuard to ensure data security confidentiality in any plant from other countries. So we don't use write access to the data. We only read the data. When we read the data, we use ISO 27001, which is leading edge cryptographic technology. We work with the companies and with their security systems as well. And again, we can either install local to the company that's using the system, or we can install into our cloud that we own. Security is very, very important for us. Victor, that's a long message. Let's see, he's saying a few months ago, one of the SamGuard customers, Ajinomoto, shared their success on a Congress in Paris. That's true. Can you share some examples of outcomes they had using SamGuard with the audience can see the value? I don't have them at my fingertips, Victor, and I don't want to have too much dead space while I'm searching for it, but that's true. We had a really great reaction from Ajinomoto. They were very happy with the success that they got from us, and frankly, you're all going to be. And we have some really great and very competent competitors as well. And I strongly urge all of you to do your research, do your homework. Again, your companies, it's not a matter of if you're going to transition into embracing these new tools, but when and who you're going to use. I happen to prefer SamGuard. Not just that I work for them, but I've seen the processes that we use and that our competitors use. And with so can we get detailed case studies also with dashboard clips? Yes. I'm going to make note of your name. We have over 50 case studies We have some that are very detailed, some that are not as detailed. We very consistently protect our clients' names, but the actual situations themselves can be seen. I will make a note of this and I'll send you a link to the case study. Amelia is also answering for you on Avere. One of the questions that's asked frequently is how long it takes to do onboarding. Onboarding can happen very quickly or it can take a very long time. We sort of talked about that or alluded to it during the presentation. 2 to 3 weeks is generally enough to do a complete onboarding and start getting actionable data if there's already a data historian with good historical data, and if we're able to connect productively with our team members on the client side. I think the biggest slowdown I've seen so far has had nothing to do with us or the clients. It's had to do with the investigations. I mean, when we go into a new client that has a very secure information, they want to do a background check on our people that are going in. That makes sense, and we're open to that. Depending on what part of the world the company is in and what part of the world our process engineer is in, then a security check can take anywhere from 2 to 3 days to 2 to 3 weeks, and that doubles the onboarding time if it takes time to do all that. Umair, thank you very much for that. I really appreciate it. You guys, if you look in your invitation or if you look at the meeting invitation, you're going to see emails there. Please feel free to contact me anytime with any question. In fact, I'm going to type my email address into the meeting chat. I love hearing from you and hearing about your concerns, your desires for this stuff. There's some I'll add. This is an amazing technology. I love it. It's going to happen. It's going to happen. It makes us all more powerful and more capable. And it's exciting. It's exciting for me to be part of this and be part of this really great team that I'm a part of. Thank you, Anave. I appreciate that. Some of the questions that I hear from clients as we're doing our onboarding process or as we're doing the data retrievals and those kinds of things, they can it can be specific to their location, but it can be very general. Data security is always a big one. The length of time for onboarding is always a big one. Cost is first and foremost a lot of people's mind. I would say that the cost of our system is much less than the cost of a very new, very inexpensive engineer. It's a yearly subscription service, and we are very inexpensive, especially compared to our competitors. The value from the subscription services is really without question. It pays itself back really within one alert. It can, or within several, if not one. And we're about making our industries more competitive, more capable. And again, we want to free up the brain power of our engineers to do other things than fight fires. All of you guys are talented. You guys are all good thinkers, and you should be looking at ways to improve processes and not fight train wrecks. First time I ran a plant, I was scared to death because the owner of the company that I worked for, he didn't even have a maintenance program. His maintenance program was, if something breaks, we fix it. And it cost us a lot of money, a lot of time. It was frustrating to work in an environment like that. This is amazing, because even when we're not working in the old standards of having PMCS, preventative maintenance schedules, which are great, you're still sometimes working in an environment where you're reacting. I'll give you one example that I really love to talk about. I had a client that I worked with in a past life. If you fly to Calgary, Canada, and then you rent a truck and you drive another 8.5 hours north. You make it to one of these compressor stations for natural gas pipelines. They're literally in the middle of nowhere. Um, these guys, they schedule their downtimes and their maintenance once a year. They do it in the summer. The reason they do it in the summer is that in the winter, it's absolutely impossible to get to these things. And even when they schedule their turnarounds in the summer, they're losing about $500,000 a day in profit and in production because the pipelines shut down while they're doing their maintenance. And this is when they've taken a year, they planned the right people to be at the right place at the right time with the right equipment. If one of these compressor stations located in the middle of nowhere in Canada in the middle of the winter goes out during the wintertime, the cost then is $1 million a day plus, and then they still have to try to coordinate to get the right people at the right time in the right place to deal with these emergency situations. Using a system like SamGuard or thank you, Abiola Lola, appreciate that. Using a system like SamGuard or a predictive analytics system helps see the pieces of equipment that you just wouldn't normally see as they're beginning to fail. One event that I like to talk about a lot is, so Amelia has put a link in the chat to the precog.co case studies site. There are 54, I think, case studies at that location. And we have even more detailed ones. If you guys go through those and would like something with more details, feel free to email me. I'm happy to send them to you. If any of you guys ever walked through an oil processing facility or an oil products processing facility, you've seen flare stacks. When I walk past a flare stack, the thing that I look for is to make sure that that blue flame, the igniter is going, because I don't want condensate to burp out of the flare stack and fall on me and set me on fire if it catches back on. One situation we were looking at, AI was alerting to the fact that there was an issue with a flare stack. If you pass by that flare stack and see the igniter, you would never think to look up there. And what happened is, it turned out that there was an optical analysis device up there that was dirty, and it was causing the system to open the valve 30% more than it normally would have, and it was using an extraordinarily large amount of fuel, much more than it would have, just to keep the igniter running. And multiply that times dozens or more, or maybe less, but more other flare stacks in the facility. The client was very, very happy just to get the idea that they should look at those things. Because again, if you're walking past a flare stack, you may never even think to look at something like that a second time. All right, I'm going to see if I can find any more questions. Thank you, Victor, I appreciate that. Looking at the Q&A and back to the chat. Yeah. Okay. So a question that was emailed in was about the pilots. We are currently inviting people to apply for a chance to receive a 90-day pilot at no cost. This gives your company a chance to see how our system works compared to what you already have, or if you have nothing at all, how it works, how the onboarding system goes, and how the alert systems work, and how intense it is for the operators. That's still available. I think you guys can apply for that, and we're happy to support you with those. Let's see if I have another one.
Hello.
Hi, how are you?
Yeah, fine. So at last, okay, I'm audible. So, just I have one query. Like your AI system, these are mainly focused on getting, let's say, the system informations or system errors. So can we get like the productivity or machine OEE, these sort of things?
So yes, and also no. So we're not looking for errors. We're actually just watching the entire process system as it runs normally. And if you're wondering if this can help increase productivity, it can in that it avoids unintended shutdowns, because if you plan a maintenance event, it's much faster and more efficient than if you're scrambling trying to repair something that's gone down unnecessarily or without alerts. So in that sense, yes, it can help you with your productivity. Is this a quote unquote production tool per se? Not like that, but the system watches everything in the process. It understands when the process is working properly, and when the process begins to even drift toward working improperly, it'll create an actionable alert. We'll guide you guys with that as well and let you know. And then these can help your productivity stay up.
Okay, thank you. Yeah.
And did you just click on your mic from your side to make it open up? Just checking, asking for a friend. Victor, try yours now. See if you can click on it.
Actually, in my cases, I could not, I think, write in the chat.
You might have special access. That's pretty awesome. Are there any questions? I mean, look, the presentation was, the basis of it was pretty clear. We're not trying to replace anybody. We're enhancing everyone's abilities. And that's really what we want to put across. I mean, I think you guys are you're very clever. You're very aware of what's going on in the world right now. You all know this is where the world is headed. And then it's just a matter for you of deciding with whom you're going to participate. We would like for you to participate with us. We worked very hard. We're very proud of what we've done, and we're really, really happy for our clients that work with us and moving forward and getting better control over unexpected downtime in their facilities. Okay, and with that, it's 11:30. I've held you guys for a little over an hour if you've been here from before the start. Thank you so much for joining. I really, really appreciate you guys coming. Feel free to send me emails and ask questions. I'm happy to answer anything that I can. And if I can't answer it, I'll find someone within our organization who can. We have a ton of very talented, intelligent people. Thank you all very, very much. You guys have a wonderful rest of your day.